yourself, hanging out under a tree, smoking a joint, trying to wrap your head around life for a second, and get yourself in a little bit of trouble. And the next thing you know, you are on your way to Mississippi. And I know a lot of kids got like transferred there with like like bounty hunters or whatever. My parents told me they were taking me there. I mean, obviously, I didn't know it was about to be what it was going to be. Otherwise, I wouldn't. I would have like kicked and screamed the whole way. But I always had like, I was always interested in martial arts and like combat sports and things like this. And at the base of all those movies, of almost all the cool kung fu movies, the ninja movies, there's like, a boy gets sent to a Shaolin temple by his parents, and he learns some ninja shit, and he comes back, and he's like, he straightens out all that shit in his life. You know what I'm saying? So like, I was looking at it as that. I saw the brochure, all the clever words that they said. I was looking forward to the idea of like when they said that we boxed, that was the way we handled our aggression. I was looking forward to that. But in my head, I was thinking there would be like a fucking boxing coach. You know what I'm saying? Like there would be boxing coaches and like technique and time to like practice and spar and train. I didn't realize that they were just going to take kids, no age categories or weight categories, and just throw gloves in the middle of the dorm and go, who wants to fight each other? Like I had no clue it was going to be like that. And I mean, deep down inside, I was, at 14 years old, I just had this huge growth spurt where I grew like 9 inches and put on like 40 pounds in like the matter of a year. So I went from like a 12-year-old child who was just got molested and was scared like of everything to being like the size of a grown-up, but still scared like a 12-year-old. You know what I'm saying? So I was looking forward to this this integration of like a rite of passage into adulthood. You know what I'm saying? Like where I could learn some self-defense, learn how to take care of myself, because clearly I couldn't rely on the people who were supposed to take care of me, if you will. And and at 14 I agreed to go there. And when I went out there, I mean, Brother Fountain and his boys, they had like his leaders and the guys that they show up to talk to you, they had like a pretty good spiel, because they knew I was like coming into it like, yeah, I'll go. I was already having a terrible time at home. I was already getting in fights and having a hard time. And so, I agreed that I would go. And it was supposed to be for 6 months. Nobody ever stayed for just 6 months. We all stayed until a new kid was coming in that was paying more money. Like if you were supposed to be there for 6 months, you stayed there for, 10 months to a year. And the only reason you left was because you found out there was another kid coming who was probably paying more money than your parents were. So now all of a sudden you got approved to go home. But yeah, so yeah, the reason why I got sent there was just because I told on myself. Because I had a moment where I tried to cry out for help, if you will. And my parents went to the church, and the church looked into what resources they had. And some silver-tongued snake named Brother Fountain had showed up a few weeks before and talked them into sending some kids out there. So they just handed my parents the brochure. My parents brought it back to me. They also told me that I was going to have a choice. Like we would go check out the place, and like if I didn't like it, I'd go back with them. But that was off the table once we walked in. Right when we walked in, and Brother Fountain was there, and big muscly, I forget the kid's name, but there was like an 18-year-old kid who was freaking jacked, who was there to like help him out. And once we were there, that was off the table. There was definitely no, you can jump back in the car, head back, because they were like, I think they were going to Disney World or something. They were cutting across to Disney World. And so, but yeah, so they, that was my experience on how I got there. Was just I volunteered to go there, because I was in a pretty rough spot as far as, wrapping my head around with what I'd already been through in life. First impression of Bethel, I get there, real nice. They're real. They're crossing all their T's, dotting all their I's. Right when my parents leave, everything switches. Like Brother Fountain's attitude changes. His henchmen who are there to keep the kids in line, they become like more of a threatening force instead of a there to help you force. And then I remember going into the dorm and just seeing all these kids. Not a one of them looked like they had the, life in their eyes, the confidence in their eyes that you would hope to see. And later that night, we get together for boxing matches. And remember, the last thing my parents said to Brother Fountain before they left me there was, "Don't let him box." I had previous injuries and an eye socket injury. Doctor said that if I took one bad hit, I could go blind in my right eye. And so I told him, do not let him box. And, the first night in there, boxing matches are happening. People are stepping up, doing their thing. I'm not going to be the new kid who's just like sitting down, not doing anything. So I want to box too. I get in the boxing match and I get my ass kicked. I probably get hit 90 times to my one time hitting him. Looking back now as somebody who's had experience in this type of thing, I've cornered professional fighters, and there's no way I wouldn't throw in a towel in that situation. If I saw one of my guys out there getting hit 90 times, not defending himself, I'm throwing in a towel. But there was nobody to do that, and so I just got my ass handed to me. I got my face kicked in, and then at the end of that fight, I can only see that now looking back, I could see that they saw this as an opportunity. I was just turned 14 years old. I was already 6'3". I was 185, 190 pounds of muscle. I looked like a 19-year-old like athlete, but inside I was a 12-year-old kid who was trying to wrap my head around the fact that I couldn't protect myself when somebody was forcing themselves on me. And so you combine the size of that structure with the scared personality of that little 12-year-old victim, and they saw that as an opportunity, is what I feel like. And the next time they had the opportunity to take me off the property, they took me off the property to go shopping for supplies. And they took me to a spot where there was other kids and boxing matches were being held. And, they had me take off my shirt and stand next to my opponent. And there I am, 6'3", almost 200 pounds of muscle, just 8-pack jacked, standing next to somebody who's like 5'8" and maybe, 150, 160 pounds. But this kid was a killer. He was probably 18. And when we got into it, people started making bets, and then we fought, and this kid destroyed me, absolutely destroyed me. And then, as it progressed and I got better at fighting, eventually then they took me out and I did another one of those boxing matches. And, I can only assume it didn't pay off to bet on the other guy anymore, because the obvious big, tall, jacked guy started learning how to fight. And so I won a fight, and they never took me off the property again after that. And the only thing I could think of is the reason why they were playing it like that is, they're doing some Don King shit, some redneck Don King shit where, the outcome of the fight because you just saw this child in a man's body get destroyed. Didn't even put up a fight. And then so you take him over here and you have him fight, where you can, hedge the bets. And, and I mean, I can't imagine that I'm the only one who had to do that. I imagine there's a lot more guys out there that got taken shopping for supplies. And I can't imagine any of us got out of there without CTE, that brain chronic traumatic encephalitis or whatever it is, the brain disease that football players get from bashing their heads in so many times at young ages. And yeah, I mean, that was part of the stuff that we had to deal with on a day-to-day basis. And then, you know, you deal with that, you go through something like that, and then on top of that, try to tell somebody about it. See what happens. You know, write a letter to your parents and tell on them. You'll get your food cut off. You'll be running laps around a basketball court from sunset to sunrise. No food again the next day. Run around the basketball court sunset to sunrise. No food again the next day. Think you're going to write another letter? That letter never even got out. You wrote a letter and it ended up going to the warden. He reads it, you told on yourself. There was nobody to tell. I think that was one of the biggest takeaways I had from Bethel, is that the people we looked at as authority were the ones who sent us there. The people who were in the position of authority while we were there abused, took advantage of us. You know? And then when it came time to lean out for help from somebody, who do you go to? Who do you go to? Could you ever trust authority again? The only thing we had, the only people we had was each other. Even Bradley, the only person he had was the people in his bunk, the people next to him. You know, like it's crazy as the parents, you know, the kids are getting sent there because, you know, they have two or three friends that are a bad influence, you know. So you remove your child from a situation at home where you could be over and interacting with them on a daily basis, and you're having a hard time controlling them with 2 or 3, you know, misguided individuals when you can see them. And then for some reason, it makes sense with the sales pitch he has that you're going to send your kid to a place with like 60 misled and crazy kids, right? And then you're not going to be there to look over them and guide them through any of this shit. It's just going to be, and it's not like Mrs. Fountain was there for us, you know what I'm saying? Like, she couldn't be. Like, so there was no mother present on the whole property. Like, a lot of us went from having very little connection to our mother, broken connection to our mothers, to getting sent to a place where there was no mother, not a single one. There was only aggressive, racist, homophobic, toxic masculine energy running the place. And you're hoping with these ingredients that we're going to somehow get our kid back baked the way we want him. I mean, it seems insane. Yeah, it seems insane, but you know, such is life, I guess. But I mean, and just as much as we're victims for the, you know, by the actual physical abuse and the mental abuse and the psychological abuse, and I mean, our parents are victims as cons. They got conned. You know, they're not victims like, you know, they don't need a documentary filmed about them, but they are victims. They got conned out of what should have been the most precious thing to them, their namesake, their family's lineage, you know? Yeah, so, I mean, that was my first impression of Bethel was violence, more violence. If you reach out to the authorities to get some sort of safety, more violence will come. And in the end, though, I mean, the lesson of, you know, I can't trust authority. I can't trust, you know, none of us really can. We can trust the person sitting across from us. We can trust the eyes and the mouth that is sitting across from us, our own intuition to know if they're lying. We can trust that. But we can't trust some asshole who said he's in charge. You know, and I mean, that's a crazy lesson to learn as a child, you know, where if you go to the authorities, you're going to be in more trouble, you know. I mean, And I mean, besides the boxing stuff, you know, there's just like the day-to-day trauma of that place. Like, um, you put that many kids together with sharp tools and nobody watching them, even if they're not mad at each other, accidents will happen. I remember one of my first days working on the, how do we even say it without the inward crew? We call it the inward crew.
The N crew, yeah.
Yeah. So
A very racist.
a very
They were
racist
treated in a
term
racist
for
way.
people who are forced to work for free crew. When I was working on that crew, the very first time I was working on it, I had so much pent up aggression and hurt and fucking heartbreak inside of me. I was literally trying to take it out on the dirt with this pickaxe. And so I'm just swinging this pickaxe, digging a trench. We're just digging a fucking trench. I don't even know if it's going to anything at this point. I think we're just digging a trench to dig a trench. And and I just start getting going. And then I go to take a swing, and on the upswing, the edge of this freaking pickaxe smacks this dude behind me right in the forehead. Wow! Lifts up his like inch of his skin, just tears that like you get PTSD just from that. And that was just 4 seconds of Bethel time. And so I'd reach back and boom. And of course the authorities there, you know, they don't believe anything's an accident. It's my first day there. I freaking hit a kid with a pickaxe. And so like they think I attacked somebody with a pickaxe. And so I get in trouble for that. I end up on my own little crew where I have to dig a ditch and fill it back up, or dig a hole and fill it back up. And then they let me back on the crew. But just like, again, going back into that whole, like when you reach out to the authorities, when you try to tell the authorities and they don't believe you, well, when are you going to stop reaching out to the authorities? You know, I ended up getting sent there because I told on myself. I freaking hit this kid and went to try to get him a doctor, somebody to help him. And they're like, "You hit him with a pickaxe," you know. And then, so like the more times I go to the authorities, the deeper in the hole I am. Literally, now I'm shoveling dirt out of a hole, you know. And so it's like the day-to-day misuse of tools, even the accidents that could happen. I remember, oh man, I can't remember the kid's name. There was a kid who went to go throw like a spray can into a fire for some reason, and it blew up in his hands. Like it just looked like hamburger meat. There was fingers dangling off. You know, lack of authority, nobody watching us, like yet the sales pitch was they would definitely have eyes and assistants with each person all the time. And then, you know, I remember like but yeah, I remember just like there was like obvious abuse, you know what I'm saying, like that was happening on a daily basis, which was just like the physical abuse, the driving people into the ground through work, screaming at them, yelling. And then there was like the taboo abuse, like the shit that just made them laugh. Like I remember, I think Alan had just gotten there when they started breaking out those like ghost peppers, those little tiny chilies. They're like the size of 2 grains of rice or something. They were so small. And they told you, oh yeah, no, if you could eat one of those, you don't have to clean the kitchen this time. I mean, you have to clean the kitchen 3 times a day. You eat one of those things, you're gonna shit your fucking pants. You're gonna shit blood out for what, 2, 3 days? I mean, those things were brutal. And so, I mean, there was that passive abuse where they just thought it was kind of funny to have you eat a chili like that, or climb into a septic tank, or you know, go into poison ivy to get a log that they cut down. Like just, you know, it's shit that the wrong person would just say, fucking toughen up, buttercup. But you know, it wasn't happening with a crew of men that went out to start doing these jobs together that were all splitting the pay evenly. These were children that were stripped from their families, that were being forced to work. So to kick them into a fucking septic tank, or to trick them into eating ghost peppers, or to push them down a hill that has fucking poison ivy to grab a log that you told them to go grab, is, you know, that ain't just job site humor. That's, it's abuse. It's physical abuse for none other than your own humorous pleasure. Like, because it's not like it benefited Bethel to get that one log that was through the poison ivy. You know what I'm saying? It's not like it benefited the kids. So it's not like he turned like feeding these kids these ghost peppers, making them shit their brains out, into some like metaphorical lesson of life. And don't take the wrong, you know, everything you eat is poison or medicine. You know, you could have made it something, but instead you just fed them a fucking ghost pepper and laughed while they cried and poured milk all over their face. I mean, some of the stuff they did, yeah, it was funny to us, but it was funny to us in the same way that like the movie Jackass is funny. And the movie Jackass is funny because people volunteered for that shit. And you replace Johnny Knoxville or any of those other guys with a 12-year-old kid who didn't want to fucking be there, and you shove a bottle cracker up or a bottle rocket up his ass, you're a dick. You know? And that's the type of weird, like, passive, or not even passive, just like unorthodox abuse that we would get on a daily basis. That was just day in, day out type of stuff, you know? And having as many of us as there were, just trying to wrap our heads around that and deal with it at the same time, you know, I for one feel really lucky that, you know, I got out of there as intact as I did. I don't know if you could see it, I got a little scar right there that's like exactly the same size as the width of like a razor blade. So like those little utility knives you slide out and it's like comes out as like a triangle. I don't even remember who did it to me, but I was working up on like the door jamb up in that house, that really fancy house we were building for them. I was working up on a door jamb, and somebody walked by and just boom, stuck it in the back of my arm. And like like I don't know what he was dealing with. I don't know how many ghost chilies he ate, how many septic tanks he got pushed in, how many hills he got pushed down. I don't know if he had to go box like I did, or if he had to go do whatever Trey did. I don't know, but I'm fucking super thankful. I'm super grateful to him that he didn't hit me in the neck with that, because that could have been any of us. You know, they pushed all of us to that point and then just waited for entertainment to happen, is what it seemed like. And you know, I remember getting stuck with that and just dropping down and grabbing my arm and just blood squirting all over the place, and like running in to get like a butterfly bandages or whatever. I was trying to get them for myself so the authorities wouldn't find out, you know, because if it hasn't gone well anytime I've tried to tell them anything ever. So I remember I was trying to like bandage it up real quick, and then one of the helpers, one of the old guys who stayed there forever, came in and like saw me doing it, was like trying to make me tell who did it, and I didn't tell him who did it, and then I got in trouble for not telling who stabbed me. So I got stabbed and didn't tell on the guy, and I got in trouble for it. I remember another time there was, I mean, just all the crazy ass stories. There was this new kid who came in. He was 17. He was about my size. It was like his first week. He was having a hard time wrapping his head around the fact that he was there. I'm sure he didn't know I had just turned 14 either. You know, he probably saw somebody about his size and was like, let's do this. But he tried to fight me. I didn't want to fight him. Later on, I went and took a shit. I was in the bathroom. I was like in a bathroom stall. And all of a sudden the door got kicked in on me. And it was this guy, and he just started swinging at me. And I'm like, luckily I had already learned how to fight a little bit by the time this guy got there. And I start blocking his hits. And I jump up, pull up my pants, push him out. closed the door. Everybody else grabbed him and just separated us. And I finished my time in the bathroom. But I remember after that, that was the last time I went and tried to go to the authorities. I went and I told, um, Brother Fountain that like I'd gotten attacked in the shitter, and basically he told me he wasn't going to let me out of there unless I started fighting back. Was basically what he told me. And then so from that point on, I just like, all right, I guess I'm gonna. Guess it's actually not okay for me to fight. It's encouraged for us to fight. Like, and so from that point on, I did my best to try to not get into it with anybody. But if it had to happen, I just got into a fight. Let's fight, like immediately. And before that, I'd always, I always looked up to the theories and like the morality involved in martial arts, not just the combat sports of it, but like the morality of it. Like, you use it as an opportunity to not fight, like as much as you can. And so up until I got there, I had always chosen, like tried my hardest to get out of fights. I think I'd only thrown the first punch ever one time in my life. And I was like 11 or something. So I don't even know if that counts as a punch. It's just like a whack. And other than that, I'd never thrown the first punch. And once I was there, and he basically explained to me, like, if you want out of here, you're going to have to fight your way out. And I mean, from then on, I just started tried to avoid the opportunity, but if it was there, I jumped in it, like I tried not to start the opportunity, but if somebody was going to be a knucklehead, no matter what size or age they were, it's on. And, in that way, it's like you get thrown to the wolves and there's only two things that can happen. You get eaten or you get raised by wolves. And, sadly enough, a lot of us turned into wolves when that wasn't our goal. And yeah. And then I think the way I finally got out of there, I think it was honestly, it was towards the end of the school year. So honestly, I don't think I did anything to get out of there. I don't think I had to do anything. I don't think I had to straighten up. I don't think I had to like meet any sort of curriculum or quota of personality or attitude or citizenship award, whatever. I honestly think the only reason I got out of there was because it was the end of the school year. And so probably there was parents that were waiting to the end of the school year to send their kids there. Because right when I got out, there was like 3 or 4 other kids that got out that same week. And I'm pretty sure, like looking back, the reason why he said it was time that we'd straightened up enough to go home was probably just because there was other kids headed in. Parents who had troublemaker kids at home and were like, well, I don't want to mess up his school year, but right at the beginning of summer, I definitely don't want to leave him home all summer, so they like, I could imagine, just like when I showed up, there was the beginning of the school year. I can imagine they probably had an influx in and out at the beginning and end of summer every year. And the whole time I was there, I don't remember there being an empty bunk. And I mean, that should be impossible if you actually have like, if you're signing 6-month contracts and we're all showing up at different times, people should be leaving like sporadically at different times, right? But it seemed like every time a kid would leave, 2 days later, there would be a new kid. There was never, I think there was an empty buck once for like a week. That's it. I mean, how's that possible? So I think the only reason I got out was just because there was another kid coming that was going to pay more. My family wasn't wealthy at all, so they had to borrow money from other family members, and I'm sure to get that money they had to elaborate on how bad of a child I was to get me there, and so yeah. So I think that's actually how I got to leave, was just that. And then going home, I remember going home, that feeling, getting to the airport, walking to that airplane. I had my head so high. I wasn't even 15 years old. the lady who, before I handed her my ID, she goes, military discount? She thought I was in the military. My head was held so high. I was so jacked from digging ditches and logging and boxing and fighting for my life over the last 10 years that legit people thought like, oh, there's a military man who probably fought in the war. Like I had the confident look of PTSD on my face, you know, like, and yeah, I remember getting home and finding out all the reasons why my friends and family thought I was there. And like, yeah, I got out of there and finding out all the reasons why I got sent there, you know, and it wasn't like it was just, um, you know, one or two friends had heard. It was like, you know, a kid at that age gets sent somewhere, the whole school spreads rumors, you know, those rumors go to the parents, then the parents spread rumors to each other, bunch of chatty Cathys all over the whole town. And the next thing you know, you can't even go over to your best friend's house because his parents heard a story about the way you acted before you got sent to this place, not even caring about what the real story is or what actually happened to you in that place. All they know is that you're now not only are your ties severed from your family naturally because they abandon you and sent you to a hellhole, but then your ties to your friends and family get cut, or your friends get cut too. And so, you know, I end up moving like a hour away, whole new group of people. Just nobody knows my backstory. Everybody's hearing any stories I am telling just sound like lies because they involve working as a slave in Mississippi, which, I mean, I don't look old enough to have lived as a slave in Mississippi. I don't look 200 years old or whatever you have to be. But yeah, so, you know, telling stories like that, you just get looked at like a liar. And then the next thing you know, you fill those in with, you're like, all right, well, I'll just fill them in with white lies that are easier for you to accept, you know. I'll fill it in with, I moved here from Mississippi because my dad does construction and built a bridge out there, you know. And then, let's see. And then, you know, fuck. One of the hardest things to actually admit and take responsibility for is how much of that shit I brought with me. How much of that shit I brought with me. You know, you fucking, like I learned, I've known my whole life, I've learned, you know, that physical abuse is bad. You know, sexual abuse is bad. I've encountered them, yeah. I've dealt with them, I've had them forced on me. But what I didn't realize was all those little things, all those taboo abuses, the things like isolation abuse that they practice daily. You know, they cut you off from everybody, and if you try to talk to them, they cut you off from your food and make you run around the basketball court at night. Isolation abuse, mental abuse. You know, I got out of there thinking, if you think I'm mentally abusing you, it's because your mind is weak. If you think I'm emotionally abusing you, it's because you're emotionally unstable. If you think I'm psychologically abusing you, it's because you need a therapist. You know, like I I got out of there and went into regular life with this toughen up buttercup attitude. Like it's really that bad. Like I can't explain what I've been through, but I know you haven't been through that much. And so I just expect you could deal with this. And so in a terrible way, the only thing I really brought out of that place, other than a solid distrust for authority and understanding that I can really only rely on, you know, my peers. What I really got out of that place was all that abuse. I got a big old bag of abuse to hand to people. And without knowing it, I passed that on to a lot of people for a lot of time. I mean, yeah, I definitely I've definitely hurt a lot of people in the same ways I got hurt there. I didn't realize I was doing it, because part of the reason I didn't realize I was doing it was because there wasn't a space set up for healing for us. You know, there wasn't a place for us to admit what we had gone through. There were no ears to hear us.